afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. Welcome to the class. Welcome to Torah. Hello, Leon.
Hello, Rabbi.
Jerome.
Hello there.
Welcome. And I know here online we have Priscilla, David Grossman. David, are you alone this afternoon? Let us know. Who else is there? Let us know. We always like to read your messages. Okay? We're going to study about Parshat Yitro, which contains the Ten Commandments. As I said, not suggestions. Commandments. I may talk about that in the sermon this Saturday. It's usually a joke, right? Nothing, but maybe I should take it seriously and write something. Let's see if I have time to put something together about it, because I already had the sermon with a different topic, but I like this one. Randy's here. Welcome, Randy. Hold on, where are you? Welcome to the class, Randy. And yeah, we are going to study about Yitro, but a different thing. We're going to start to study today about the character of Yitro himself. Yitro was Moses' father-in-law who came to visit. Right? What do you do with your in-laws come to visit? Okay, clean your house. Or not. Maybe they will still will be a little shorter stay if you don't clean it, right? Anyways. Oh, Brenda is doing an online sketching class, so it's just me today, said David. Okay, sketching class. Wonderful. Yeah, so many jokes about in-laws.
Yeah.
I heard one the other day. The one that it was about this new police recruit, cadet, that he has to pass his final exam, and he was asked, "What would you do if you have to arrest your mother-in-law?" And he said, "I call for backup." I thought that was funny. I call for backup. Well, okay, that's the last in-laws joke that I'm going to tell today. And we are going to start moving into this week's Parshat Yitro. Again, we're saying Yitro was Moses' father-in-law. We don't know anything about Moses' mother-in-law. I don't know, she may have came to visit, but the Torah doesn't mention it. The same way that the Torah doesn't talk much about Moses' family in general. I don't know, guys, if you notice that. Wouldn't you love to know more about Moses' kids?
Yeah, what happened to them?
What did they do? What did they like? What they didn't like, right? Because it was like kind of weird for them. They just came with Yitro to join the group. They grew up in freedom, right?
It'd be a whole different culture.
So I'm wondering how they adapted to this new reality of living in the desert. Because the big problem with all the other generation is that they wanted to go back to Egypt, but these two, they didn't fit in Egypt. They were born in Midian. So the father-in-law, their grandfather, Yitro, was a pagan priest. So they were exposed to different kind of worship. So, but I would like to know more about them, but unfortunately the Torah doesn't give us anything about it. Same with Tzipporah, Moses' wife. I mean, you have to feel for her. He was never home. He was always at board meetings and stuff. Right? So I don't know. Like whenever Moses' boss, right, will call, he will put everything on hold and go. So anyway.
The only time she got mentioned is when her sister-in-law didn't like her.
Yeah, but that was the second wife.
Oh.
That was the second wife. the Ethiopian woman.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let me bring my text here. We are going to study. Hello, Amparo. Welcome to the class. So, Yitro comes finally to join. Okay? Now it's interesting because, number one, why is he coming now? Okay? And listen to this. The Torah portion would say, now, Yitro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard about all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, and how Adonai, or how God, had brought Israel out of Egypt. So why is he coming? What did he hear? What did he hear?
Well, we heard about the Exodus and the crossing of the Red Sea.
Yeah. And then, for some reason, that was a trigger to come see Moses. How was the connection? I don't know. I mean, if it weren't by the miracles, he wouldn't come to join them.
Well, he wouldn't want to support this the family forever, and maybe wants to turn it over to the husband.
Well, I don't know. Basically, Moses didn't need any support right now. God was providing everything they needed, right?
No, but Yitro is taking care of his wife and his children.
Oh, wow. I don't know. But it came. So, very good, Jerome, what he said. He heard about the Exodus and the crossing of the Red Sea. That's what Rashi said. If I believe, I will go to the next text. Yeah. Rashi says, of what did he hear that he came? Specific. Give me something. And then Rashi answers, of the splitting of the Red Sea and also the war against Amalek. Right? It's interesting that he put the two together, because we all know that the crossing of the Red Sea was a big miracle. Even the way the Torah describes, like two walls of water, and they walk in the middle. Great miracle. But the war against Amalek.
It's even more of a miracle. When you're taking people who are slaves and you're putting up against warriors and having them beat them.
Yeah, but sometimes we don't think about that. We don't think about that. We think the crossing of the Red Sea is a big miracle, but winning a war is not. The same concept will come back when we study about Hanukkah. What was a bigger miracle? The 8 days of the oil or defeating the Greeks?
Probably defeated the Greeks.
Well, doesn't matter, because the Talmud doesn't talk about it as a miracle, right? The Siddur doesn't talk about the oil as a miracle.
Right.
So we have the two things. And I think that there are people that this represents different kind of people understanding different things. For some people, you would say, Jerome, defeating Amalek, that's a miracle, right? Well, crossing about you're right. Crossing the Red Sea too. But for other people, it would be the opposite. Crossing the Red Sea is a miracle. What about the war? Yeah, okay, maybe.
Everyone has different
But
interpretations.
now, Yitro, maybe he knew more about Amalek. He grew up in the area.
Yeah.
And when somebody came to say, hey, the Israelites just beat Amalek. Nah, there is no way. Go check again. No, I'm telling you, dude. They beat them. So I want to go see that by myself. Right?
Yeah.
And so he,
Especially slaves.
yeah.
They have no training for military at all.
It looks like it wasn't easy to defeat them. So he went. So now, what is interesting now that he came, the fact that he came, also the Midrash. Listen what the Midrash says about the whole thing of Yitro coming. Okay. The Midrash Rabbah says This is the meaning of the verse in the book of Proverbs. Better a close neighbor than a distant brother. Okay? A close neighbor, this is Yitro. A distant brother, this is Esau. Because basically said that the descendants of Esau also heard about it. They would say, hey, we are relatives, let me, come to congratulate you for everything.
Yeah, they didn't.
We don't read anything about it. Okay? But now about Yitro, even though he was family of Moses, but the Midianites, they came to support the people of Israel after the crossing of the Red Sea and defeating Amalek. Is referred as a good neighbor. So, and I wanted to bring this because it's not coincident that Midrash Rabbah talks about it. The concept of being and being surrounded by good neighbors is huge in Judaism.
Yeah.
And the rabbis insist that is something that we should all consider seriously. Where you live is going to eventually determine what you will become. Have you ever thought about that?
Well,
Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
When you talk to somebody here in the Jewish community and you see certain patterns and behavior, I'm not saying good or bad, certain patterns, and you will say, North Ender. Right?
yeah.
And some others, so I said, oh, chances are this guy from the South End. Why? Because we pick it from our neighbors, right? And eventually we pick up these patterns. We don't even realize that. Even the way we read Torah is different.
Yeah.
If somebody reads Torah in the synagogue, and you can say, oh, North End. Right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So, but that is just a mild thing that we can catch up from our neighbors. But the culture where you are immersed have the power to reshape your life for good or for bad. And it works like that. I will give you an example. Who's here? Hello, Holly Manderkorn. Welcome to the class. I will give you an example of this. One of the big issues for us Argentinians coming to Canada and then going back to Argentina to visit. First thing I realize is we are in trouble because we come to Canada and we pick up certain good habits, like being on time. And then you go there, you are on time, and people get mad at you because nothing is ready. How dare you coming on time? I have nothing ready. Sorry for being on time. I went once to a comedy show in Chile, and the Chilean also very famous for being late, right? And the guy, let's say the show was at 7 p.m. He started at 7 p.m. o'clock.
Oh boy.
3/4 of the people were there. There was still 1/4 of the audience didn't come. And then he's famous for this. And then eventually, show started and somebody will come quietly, try to find his seat, right? And the guy stopped the show, pointed at that person. And I said, hello, sir, welcome. Come on, please find your seat. Oh, I said, sorry for starting on time. I said, I know, you will tell me that you have to go through a lot of traffic. It was fine to find parking, right? I said, what happened is all these other stupid people here, they came on their bicycle. That's why they were on time. Oh, you have to go through that. He will pick up on people coming late and make the same jokes. And then the guy also, Next one coming into the show, stop and say, hello, welcome. I say, where are you coming from? And the guy will say, I don't know, Las Condes, which is a neighborhood, right? And I said, you know, I said, you came from Las Condes and you're late. I said, I came from Buenos Aires, I made it on time. Oh boy. And you have to hear all these jokes, roasting people coming late. But it's okay, going back to this, we pick up, believe it or not, we pick up things from our neighbors. Okay? Habits. Sometimes for good, sometimes not so good. Let's continue. Now, it's not a coincidence also that if you go to Pirkei Avot, there is a famous story that I always read because I think it has a gold information here. Listen to this. Rabbi Yochanan said to his students, go and see which is the best trait for a person to acquire. Okay? Why did he say go and see? Because he's talking about yeshiva students. What happened with yeshiva students?
They learn, period.
They don't live. They don't even have to go to the grocery store. There is a dining room there. They don't live, literally, especially in those days. They will live there day and night. And then the guy said, Rabbi Yochanan said to the student, you know guys, eventually you have to go back to the world, okay? So I want to prepare you for that. I want to prepare you for the real world outside the yeshiva. So go out as an experiment, live outside a little bit, and then come back and tell me what is a good trait that you should acquire to be a functional human being. Okay? They came back. Rabbi Eliezer said, a good eye. What does it mean, a good eye? Sorry?
Paying attention to things, like you...
Being positive. Always judging people positive. You know, you go to the real world, after being in a bubble, you will think that everybody's a jerk. Okay? And then he said, not everything is about you. So be positive. A good eye is very important. Okay? Second rabbi was Rabbi Joshua. He said, you know what? To be a functional human being, you need a good friend. Right? Book of Proverbs also will say that it's very important having a good friend because, you know, if one falls, the other one will help it up. And that's why you go to yeshiva, you study in Chavruta, right? But maybe saying good friend, he had a little bit of a bias coming from the yeshiva world. But then the third one, Rabbi Yossi said, a good neighbor. Right? A good neighbor. Because if you want to be a functional human being, be careful where you live. And the Pirkei Avot brings an example. He said, you know, if you enter to a place that smells like poop, even if you don't touch anything, you keep the smell on your clothes. Now, if you go to a perfume store, even if you don't buy anything, you still keep the smell in here, but it's a nice smell, right? So I said that's why it's so important to live in a nice neighborhood, because eventually you catch up whatever is around. Now the next rabbi, Rabbi Shimon said, to see what is born out of one's actions. In other words, be responsible and realize that every action will have a reaction, right? In the yeshiva world, it's difficult to see that. But in the real world, everything you do will have a reaction. And then the last one was Rabbi Eleazar said, a good heart. And of course, the rabbi said, I prefer Eleazar, a good heart. That's the most important thing. Have a good heart. But then the rabbi said, to keep the good heart as a good heart, to protect that good heart, eventually you're going to need good neighbors. Otherwise, it's very difficult. very difficult. That's why the Torah, in Parshat Yitro, kind of honors good neighbors and appreciate and acknowledge how important it is to have somebody who will come to be happy for you. Because you are free, you have big miracles. You know that there are people that whenever you tell them that you had a big miracle in your life, or you went through a big blessing in your life, they get jealous. Hi, I guess it happened to you?
Probably, not that I can recall, but I'm sure it has.
But people get jealous,
Yeah.
right? You move to a brand new house, people get jealous. You take 2 weeks holidays in the Caribbean, people get jealous, right? That's why it's so important to recognize the other people, the people that are around you, not necessarily friends, but they celebrate you instead of judging you or being jealous of you. That is Yitro for us. He genuinely was happy for us. Priscilla Kerr says, sorry, patient is here. See you soon. Okay. Bye, Priscilla. Take care of your patients. Dr. Priscilla. Okay. Now, let me read one comment about Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, who said the Hebrew word for shachan means both to dwell or to be a neighbor. Okay? So therein lies the highest social ideal, he says. In Jewish thought, to dwell means to be a neighbor. When a Jew takes a place on earth to be his dwelling place, wherever you go, he must at the same time concede space and domain to his fellow men for a similar dwelling place. So this is very important because it says it's very important for you to live in a place where you have good neighbors, right? But even more important is for you to be a good neighbor. What does it mean to be a good neighbor in this day and age in Winnipeg?
To be friendly, to be helpful.
Look out for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Friendly and helpful comes to mind more than anything. Because our neighbors will, water our plants in the summer for us if we're away.
Wow. You're lucky.
Taking our mail, so.
Yeah, some neighbors call the city of Winnipeg as soon as you don't cut the grass for 2 days, right?
Some probably do, yeah.
And some others come and help you cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about, you have the word shachan and you have shvina, same letters.
So, yeah. Because
Get your prescription on the way.
here Shekhinah sometimes refers to the place where God dwells,
Yeah.
right? So that's why it's coming from the same place. But what I wanted to say with this is it's very important to be careful who are your neighbors, but also for you to be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Extremely important. That's why historically Jewish communities always did things for their neighbor. It's like the Shari Zedek that we help every Christmas
Right.
at the soup kitchen, right?
Right.
We feed because it's a local church, it's in our neighborhood,
Yeah.
so we help.
And we keep in for other organizations.
And I heard that it was huge also when we had the flood in River Heights. That the Shari Zedek stepped up and came out to help and to fill sandbags and things. So it's important. It's important for you to be a good neighbor. Let's continue. So, listen to this. This is a modern rabbi. This is still alive. He said, this law of good neighborship, you know that in halakha, in Jewish law, we have specific regulations for how to be a good neighbor. Yeah, well, you shouldn't be surprised. We have regulations for everything.
Yeah.
So there are regulations for friendship and for how to be a good son, for example, or how to be a good neighbor. So there are regulations. This law of good neighborship, to our great sorrow, is disregarded, and many people suffer damage and even have their life shortened. Oh, and we should sound alarm on this. Okay, he's talking about people that they are terrible neighbors, that they don't have any considerations for people around them. Because at the end of the day, being a good neighbor means that you are not self-centered. Right? To some people I will say, I'm so happy for you that you love dogs, but don't let your dog bark all night.
Yeah.
Because you're keeping up your entire neighborhood. So, stuff like that. So, but listen what this guy said, because this rabbi goes a step further from there. He said, especially responsible are those that are involved in community affairs who should not be silent on this matter. New factories, in particular, should be inspected carefully to know what type of damages they are likely to cause to the community, and factories should not be permitted to be established until they are known to be observing the law of distancing of damages damages properly, and to have all the necessary devices for ensuring that their waste it will not damage the environment. Okay, so according to this rabbi, polluting the environment is a violation of the law of being a good neighbor.
Right. We even have non-Jewish laws for that. Environmental assessment.
Yeah, but this rabbi Ezra Batzri, if I'm not mistaken, he lives in Israel. He's a Rosh Yeshiva in one of the yeshivot in Israel. So what he's saying here is he's talking about in Israel. He said the government should never allow any kind of new factories that they are going to damage the environment. Why? Because we all use the environment, and allowing that will be a violation of a clear mitzvah of being good neighbor.
Right.
Which I thought, I wanted to include this text because I thought it was very proper and contemporary, right?
Yeah.
That sometimes we know that it's bad to pollute the environment, but how do you say that halachically? What law are you breaking in halacha when you contaminate? The law of being a good neighbor. Because if you contaminate the water or the air, you're affecting everybody in your community. So the same way that you don't want other people in your neighborhood to affect you, you should take all the precautions not to affect them. Okay? There's a very clear violation here. Any comments? Any comments? No? Okay. Let's continue here. Now, if we are talking about neighbors, I don't know you guys, but the first thing that comes to my mind is love your neighbor as yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Clear mitzvah.
Treat others as how you want to be treated.
Oh, well, that's an interpretation.
Yeah.
That's an interpretation. Treat others the way you want to be treated, because, and this is what I want to read now, that if I just say to you, love your neighbor as yourself, then you can ask me, well, what does it mean? What does it really mean? How can I love my neighbor as I love myself? Is that even possible?
Yeah. I don't know how you would.
It's interesting, and I'm going to read it in a minute, but sometimes there are some people that they, what if you don't have any self-esteem? What if you are one of those persons that you're very toxic to yourself? How does it affect your loving your neighbors? Because if I say you should love your neighbor as you love yourself, well, I treat myself very poorly.
why you should live in a good neighborhood. So.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes it could be very
Whole other
complex,
complicated issue.
but it could be very complex to understand this verse. That's why sometimes we interpret it as don't do to others what you don't want others to do to you.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's also flawed. That interpretation is flawed. Because what if it's something that you don't care?
Well, you're a masochist. You enjoy pain.
Right now, no,
You're a
no,
masochist. You
you
enjoy
enjoy pain. No, but let's go back to the case of a dog that barks all night. I don't care. I don't care if you get your dogs barking all night. It doesn't affect me. I got used to it. So I will never do something to you that it's bad for me, because it's not bad for me. So sometimes you have to be also aware of what is the standard. Anyway, let me read this. We can talk again about it. The reason behind love your neighbors like one does for oneself is in fact an exaggeration. Are you following? According to this rabbi, he said, love your neighbor as yourself is an exaggeration, for no human's heart can accept loving one's fellow as one loves one's own soul. That's realistic. That's a fact. And furthermore, Rabbi Akiva already learned that your life comes before the life of your friend. In Hebrew, this is called Hayecha Kodmim. It means that if I have to choose between saving you or saving myself, I have to choose saving myself first. Okay? So if that's the thing, how can I love your neighbor as myself? It's a contradiction there.
Right.
Because I already said that it cannot be, we are not equals. My life takes precedence. Okay? That's why I said this is an exaggeration. Let's continue. It means that it is a mitzvah to love one's friends through all the good things that he loves himself. And it is possible that since the verse says to your neighbor, instead of merely stating loving one's neighbor like yourself, the verse is comparing this love to the commandment to love the sojourner. You know, the sojourner, the alien, the foreigners, right? There is a specific commandment in the Torah, separate from love your neighbor. Is it love the foreigner? That it says, I lost the spot.
Not foreigner.
Foreigners, yeah.
Oh, foreigners.
Foreigners, yeah,
Okay.
the people who were born somewhere else.
Okay.
So
No, it sounds like
it says, love the sojourner, or the foreigner, and Leviticus, where it says that you should be loving him as yourself. Same language of love your neighbor. That means to make the love of both comparable in his mind. For sometimes one loves his neighbor with the things that are known to enhance his material happiness, but not with wisdom and qualities that they are similar to it. Continue. If, however, he loves him and wishes him well with everything he desires, and that his beloved friend should be blessed with happiness, property, honor, knowledge, and wisdom, while not comparing himself to his friends, by wishing in his heart that he himself should be more than his friend in all that is good. For there should not be this kind of petty jealousy, as the verse commands, like one does for oneself, and thus he should not make limits to this love. So here, the rabbi is explaining that what the way of loving your neighbor as yourself is not to be jealous of your neighbor. The same way that you are not jealous about yourself. You're happy for everything you get, right? But now I want to do it as myself. It means I'm happy for you as well. And I will share everything with you. Because some people will say, no, I don't want to share things with you, because why if you become better than me? So I'd rather keep it to myself. Be generous, be kind, and be happy.
Well,
Even
like
if
with generous, for instance, like we with our neighbors, with one set of neighbors, during the holidays, we always take them baking.
that's great.
We don't always there's years where we get something back. There's years that we don't.
Yeah.
But that's what we chose. That's what we've done. And like I say, sometimes it's reciprocated and sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not. So let's continue. Thus, it says that Jonathan, regarding David, he loved him as he loved his soul. How? Because he had removed the attribute of jealousy from his heart. And thus, the following verse promises, and you will rule over Israel. So it's interesting that according to this rabbi, the interpretation of love your neighbor as yourself has nothing to do not do to your neighbor what you don't like to be done to you. And it has all to do with remove jealousy from your heart to improve the relationship with your neighbor. And the Torah will say, not the Torah, the Bible, it says that once King David removed all jealousy from his heart, he was rewarded with being the ruler over Israel. But that becomes, we become worthy of reward from God when we remove jealousy from our heart. I don't think people sometimes realize how difficult it is to remove jealousy. And when I say remove jealousy, I'm not talking about the feeling. Okay? Feelings are not forbidden in Judaism. And I know that it might be other religions where if you feel something bad, you're a sinner. In Judaism, feeling is meaningless as far as you don't act on your feelings. So the Torah will talk about, not being afraid, okay? Or trusting God, not be afraid, trusting God. It doesn't mean that you will never be afraid, that you will never feel fear. Just what it means that you should not sit on that fear to the point that it will stop you from doing things.
Right.
Your mission is to overcome the fear. It doesn't mean that you will not be, you won't have that feeling of jealousy whenever you hear certain news about your neighbor. The challenge is for you to overcome that. And that may be, that you have to go and bring them a baking just to do something to help you overcome the feeling of jealousy or other things, right? So it's very important. And then you can start understanding how much better our relationship with our neighbors will be if there is no jealousy. And I see that not just about your neighborhood, here in Winnipeg. I'm talking about between countries.
Right.
The thing is, the relationship will be improved if there is no jealousy. It's amazing how jealousy can't stop us. Hello, David. Daniel B. is here with us. Welcome to the class. So let's continue.
And you have to be happy for yourself, I think, too, and just take stock of yourself and realize that maybe your neighbor, something good has happened to your neighbor. Maybe for whatever reason, for what happened with your neighbor is not possible for you, be it for financial reasons or whatever the reasons may be. Like, you can have your own successes, but they may just not be successes that you'd be able to achieve.
Yeah, listen what now the Nachmanides said, the Ramban. Sorry? Ramban with an N. If, however, he loves him and wishes him. No, sorry, that was what I just read. Next one. Now we'll go to the Talmud, okay? Talking about being good neighbors. Listen what the Talmud says. This is all part of the law of good neighborhood for Jews. The rabbis taught, we sustain the non-Jewish poor with the Jewish poor. Visit the non-Jewish sick with the Jewish sick. And bury the non-Jewish dead with the Jewish dead. Why? Mipnei darchei shalom, for the sake of peace. He said, why? Because if we do this, we increase peace. Because if you start from a place that, why should I do that for him? They're not like me. They don't even believe in my God, right? So no. Don't they have their own people with money to sustain them? Do you think that would bring you to a good place? No. So that's what it said, if you see a beggar in a corner, say, excuse me, are you Jewish? No, I'm not. Okay, God bless, and you keep driving, right? Somebody else will help you. No. And then he says, hi Brenda, welcome. I hope your sketching class was good. And then he said, he said, visit the non-Jewish sick with the Jewish sick. Okay, so if you happen to have a neighbor that is not doing well and you know about it, then you can.
Good stuff. Nice to see you.
If you live in a condo, there is somebody sick, there is not Jewish.
Yeah.
What do you say? No, sorry, I won't go to visit because it's not Jewish. No, you go. And then the last one, and it says, and we bury the non-Jewish dead with the Jewish dead. It doesn't mean it's the same cemetery, right? If it means that, if you know somebody, that is very common, especially I've seen this in workplaces. Somebody unfortunately passed away, and they are collecting money for funeral expenses and to give to the widow, right? I said, sorry, he wasn't Jewish, right? Well, but we need money, otherwise we won't have a funeral. Not my problem. I only give money to the Chesed Shalemes. No, it doesn't work like that. But this is, and again, this is coming from the Talmud. The Talmud made it very clear that part of the law of being a good neighbor is to do all these things. You don't ask who you are before you give. And by doing that, you are creating better relationship with your neighbor. You're increasing the peace. Now, the Talmud has to say this back then because they lived in a place where people were not nice to Jews. And they were afraid that this not, living in a place where people were not nice to you.
Babylon.
Sorry?
Babylon.
Or Rome.
Well, isn't this Talmud Babylon?
It's Babylon, but remember it was written in a span of multiple centuries, right?
Okay.
So what happened is, if you let that sentiment run free, eventually you will increase the tension.
Right.
So, hi chef. Good. So that's why this is so important to understand. Let's continue. Now, how do we know that Yitro was a good neighbor? Listen what he said when he came to see Moses. Yitro said, "Blessed be Adonai, who has rescued you from the Egyptians, from Pharaoh, who has rescued the people from the harsh hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that Adonai is greater than all other gods, because he rescued those who were treated so arrogantly." Okay?
Yeah.
So, number one, because there is many things here. Number one, we are very happy that he will finally recognize that Adonai is God, right? Theologically, good for you that you started to believe in Adonai. But also, the fact that I'm so happy for you, Moses. I'm so happy for you, people of Israel, that you saw the hand of God this way. Hey, I live in Midian for so many years. I've never seen the miracles that you experience. So why should I come and bless? I'm jealous, so I won't. But he did. He did. He came and blessed the name of God anyway. So that is very important for all of us to recognize. But also, the rabbis say here, how removing jealousy was one of the factors that allowed him to recognize the power of God. Jealousy is such a strong impediment that it blocks you from seeing many things. And it's interesting also, if we read between lines here, it make it clear that Yitro wasn't monotheistic. Monotheistic.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't.
No.
Because he said, listen to this, now I know that Adonai is greater than all other gods. It means that he was worshiping all of the gods. Right? Now he realized that Adonai is above all of the forces, let's put it that way. Because otherwise you may think that he was still polytheistic. But among all the gods that he had in his shelf, Adonai was the greatest one, right? It's like, if you believe in, Greek gods, they're above Zeus, right? It's above the others. Was Zeus the most important one?
Yes.
Or Poseidon, maybe?
No, Zeus. So Poseidon was his younger brother.
No, but I'm reading now a novel with my son, and they said that basically it was the big three that they call it. It was Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades.
Yeah.
They were at the same level, the three, because they control different things.
Okay.
So, anyway, the big three. So, but you have all the others. You have Ares, and Athena, but then on top of that, the big three. So here is the same. Hey, I've been worshiping to different gods, but now I know that Adonai is the greatest of all. But you will never get, not even that, if you're jealous. If you're jealous, you won't even see the miracles. You will block yourself from seeing that, because it makes you sick to your stomach that somebody is doing better than you. So let's continue with this. Rashi will say, as I mentioned before, Rashi noticed, this tells us that he had full knowledge of every idol in the world, for he had worshipped them all. Okay? And then the Zohar expands, the Torah could not be given to Israel until Yitro, the great and supreme priest of all pagan world, had confessed his faith in the Holy One, saying, now I know that Adonai is greater than all other gods. So also the Zohar would say that the visit of Yitro was extremely important, because now he was the last one to acknowledge God. Who was the other one? Pharaoh. Pharaoh already recognized God. But now there is still one thing pending before God could give the Torah. I need Yitro, the supreme priest of the pagan world, to also recognize God. And he finally did it in this parsha. And that's why the Ten Commandments were revealed pretty much right after, which is very, very interesting if you ask me. You see, the Midrash Rabbah will say, let's talk about jealousy, okay? It says, there are those who hear and are diminished by it. What does it mean?
They think less of themselves because someone else has done better than them.
While there are those who hear and they are the beneficiaries of what they heard.
They learn from what they hear.
Yoash, who was a king, heard and was diminished. The nations heard about the splitting of the sea, and rather than glorifying God, they were pained and distraught by the destruction of Egypt. Okay? In contrast, Yitro heard and benefited. Despite the fact that he was a high priest of idolatry, he abandoned all that he had accomplished in his life and attached himself to Moses, and entered under the wings of the divine presence. He merited to contribute to the portion of judges that is in the Torah, as we find he delineated to Moses the criteria to choose a qualified judge. So, in other words,
One made him diversify.
accepting and removing jealousy and celebrating the people of Israel and allow him to recognize Adonai. And by doing that, he became a fundamental instrument to make the judicial system better.
Well, he basically invented it for Moses, because Moses was doing everything himself.
Yeah, and it's funny that without God telling Moses anything, Moses couldn't figure out that he could delegate that to other people.
Yeah.
And Yitro said, if you don't do it, you're killing yourself, literally. So I thought it was very interesting, the ways were done. But nothing started until he removed jealousy from his heart. And that's why if you have to take something from this class, is this Parsha wants us to find ways to remove jealousy from our hearts. We sometimes don't realize how much jealousy is limiting us. I will give you another example, that jealousy was what killed King Saul. Remember that King Saul and King David?
Yeah.
Saul was king. David wasn't, but David was one of the generals, right? But then they went to war, and then when they came back, the people created a song, right?
Yeah, about David.
And both David and Saul.
Yeah.
And the song went by saying that Saul killed thousands, right? And then the song continued, and David killed tens of thousands, and Saul lost it and wanted to kill David because of that. What was the problem with Saul?
He's jealous.
I said, dude, what do you care that people are cheering that you killed 1,000 and he killed 10,000?
Shows that you choose good generals.
But I said, number one, that you have a great general, you're still the king. You are the king.
And you put him in command, so it's your.
Let me give you another example. Haman, for the story of Purim.
Yeah.
He had everything except for one person who will not bow down to him. And because that one person, he couldn't live.
He diminished himself.
He was miserable because Mordecai wouldn't bow down to him. And I would think, are you kidding me? Right? But this is the same of, sometimes you have somebody who has everything you can imagine. Wonderful spouse, beautiful family, amazing house, outstanding job. But the new car comes and it's not the color you order. Now you're miserable. I'm depressed. I don't want to live anymore.
You would be more angry than that, though. More angry.
But doesn't matter. Dude, put things on perspective.
No, I'm not
right?
disagreeing, yeah, but I'm just saying the emotion would be different as opposed to.
Yeah, but that's emotion that,
And it's different, yeah, but that's. People want things the way they want them, the way they.
or you have everything, and then the company where you live will name the employer of the month, and it's not you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, do you really need your photo on the wall? There are people that do.
Yeah.
That if they don't get the recognition, they can't go by. And if somebody else gets the recognition, they cannot be happy for another person. That, according to the rabbis, is a violation of the law of good neighbor. You have to be happy.
Well, like one of my colleagues got an award, and she didn't even know she was getting the award. But when it was announced, she was in shock, and all of us were so excited, and absolutely no jealousy. I mean, we were thrilled for her.
Yeah. So I will read one more text to wrap up. The parsha which contains the giving of the Torah, right, Yitro, begins with the word Vaishma. That's I said, and Yitro heard, right? Vaishma Yitro. Vaishma, he heard, to indicate that a willingness to listen and absorb is key to coming closer to God. Even a simple person, and even someone who is distant from Hashem, can draw closer when he is ready to listen to you and absorb what God is saying. How do I know that this is true? Because a person who studies Torah constantly and performs many mitzvot realizes that he is distant from Hashem. Why then is he considered a meritorious person? Only because he wants to hear that God has to say. You want to hear. It follows then that anyone who wants to hear what God has to say can likewise draw himself closer. But everything started with the desire to hear. Sometimes you will see many people that out of jealousy, I don't want to know. Let me tell you what happened, I don't want to know. Why not? Because God forbid it's something good, I will feel miserable. So I don't want to know. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you. Remove jealousy from your heart. Well, we have to go, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you all of you at home for tuning in. And remember, if you missed any part of the class, it's going to be rebroadcast tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time, okay? So you have another chance to catch up with Torah L'Chaim. If you can make it, tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., we have a special Kabbalat Shabbat, an enhanced service with a piano and guitar, where we are going to welcome our new members. And when I say new members, this is everybody who became a new member of Shari Zedek starting at the beginning of the pandemic, when we couldn't welcome them properly. So it's going to be a few years out of people being honored and recognized as member of the Shari Zedek. So if you're in person, please come and say hello to them. Tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. here at the Bernie Theater, the Asper Jewish Community Campus. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe. See you soon. Bye.